What was that feeling like when you went home that night? You're sitting there talking to your wife and you're like, all right, this is our new mission.
That's so, you ask someone, hey, what does it mean to be faithful? What's the definition of faithfulness? Jesus defined faithfulness with multiplication. Multiply what's in your hand, then you're faithful.
This might be a little bit of an edgy question, but so you're a teenager, you're want to play football. You actually lived in Tijuana at the time, but you played in San Diego, and you stayed on your high school football coach's couch just for the opportunity to play?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a unique story. So my parents couldn't really afford to live here in the U.S., so it was never the thought of staying here. So we lived in Tijuana across the border. So when I'm 3 days old, they moved me back. But something my parents did from the beginning, they always pushed me and inspired me to dream and dream big. They said, whatever you do, Marco, whatever you decide to do, be the very best you can be.
What's up, Marco?
Jeff, so good to see you, man.
Yeah, so good to have you. I mean, we had the privilege of meeting. I got invited to speak on Awaken's stage a handful of times. Actually, it's my only four-peat, so I want to thank you and the Awaken community for inviting me.
And counting.
And thank you and counting. But I got the privilege of meeting you and your beautiful wife and family. I don't know, it must have been 2.5 years ago, maybe. Yeah. And I got to just be in awe and watch you over the years, kind of how you've shaped both you and, I mean, you and your wife, you're a power couple. And how you're just impacting community after community through your message, your faith, your approach, your style, just being successful in all walks of life and how you hold yourselves. Wow. And it's been an inspiration for me. And obviously being that it's my show, I get to bring on incredibly awesome humans and pick their brain. And so I'm so grateful and thankful you agreed to come on today and spend some time.
I'm really honored to be here. We've been fans from afar and then getting closer now, but you really are an inspiration to all of us. It's like everything you touch turns to gold. And then you blew our minds when you came. You talked about vertical integration that really shaped the course of our business community. Now everyone talks about vertical integration, so
that means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I want to actually jump in because you come from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
I might butcher the story, so correct me, but your mom borrowed $2,000 and started a company which really helped you guys, because if you had to live on your high school football coach's couch, if I am correct, take me back. How did that all shape? I mean, so you're a teenager, you're want to play football. You actually lived in Tijuana at the time, but you played in San Diego, and you stayed on your high school football coach's couch just for the opportunity to play?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a unique story. So I was born in San Diego, and then my parents couldn't really afford to live here in the U.S., so it was never the thought of staying here. So we lived in Tijuana across the border. So when I'm 3 days old, they moved me back. Grew up down there and in a very, not super great area. And then my mom was encouraged by her brother, hey, you should launch a business, a logistics agency. She's like, how do I do this? So he let her borrow $2,000, started on a trailer, and then, she grew the business. And at the time, my dream was to play football here in the U.S. So I go and knock on the doors of Marian Catholic High School coach Mike David. I said, hey, I didn't speak English at the time, by the way. So I remember saying something like, hey, I want to play football. And he's like, okay, just bring your what do you say? Bring your grades. And so to see how you do in school. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a U.S. citizen. I thought he said, bring your birth certificate. So that was a funny story. But then 9/11 happens, and I was crossing the border every day. So it went from waiting in line like anywhere from 60 to 120 minutes to 2 hours to 5 hours. So it didn't matter. Like it wasn't sustainable for me to get to the line at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. to make it to school. So I tell my coach, hey, the line is crazy. Is it okay if I stay with you? Now I'm 16 at the time. I'm not thinking what the ramifications of that decision. He had just gotten married too. So he's like, oh, let me talk to my wife. And he came back and he's like, okay, you can stay with us. well, that was my first encounter really with America. I was embraced. I was loved, which, we don't have to get into this, but I just love the values of America. And when they say that America's racist, I've experienced the actual opposite. My wife is a beautiful Caucasian lady. I was embraced by her family. My coach was a beautiful white family. My coach's wife would write notes for me she would make lunch for me every day going to school. And she would write notes like, hey, Marco, we love you, the Davids. So that was an incredible experience in high school. And I got to play at Marion, then I got to play at USD, University of San Diego, which is pretty amazing.
Well, what I love about that is so often that would be the reason why people aren't successful. Because my family was broke and we had to move to another country so we could have a chance at a decent life.
Yeah.
We have no money to start a business. I want to play football, but 9/11 happened, so I couldn't make it happen. So I had to spend 5 hours, so I stopped. I quit.
Wow.
And what I love about your story, and as we go through it, is every time you've walked into or ran into a roadblock that would derail most, you found a way to persevere like water over a rock. And that's a true testament to your success. And when you think about life, those lessons done over and over and over and over again, nothing can get in your way.
Wow.
And so when your mom borrowed that $2,000 and started this logistics company, you were living in America.
No, I was living in Mexico at the time.
You were still in Mexico at the
still
time.
in Mexico, yeah.
So once that started and you graduated high school, you actually took over the business.
Yeah, so then I went into full-time ministry. I became a youth pastor. I was,
in Mexico or the U.S.?
No, in the U.S. now, in San Diego. I live now in San Diego, and I'm raising support. The church couldn't afford to pay me. This is a previous church. So I was just really making phone calls with business leaders, people of faith that believed in the cause. And I was making about $1,000 a month. And then, then was able to raise a little more, making $3,000 a month. I get married. And soon realized, hey, that's not enough. So that's when I'm like, okay, I got to do something. And I started knocking on some doors, asking for jobs and opportunities. And nothing really hit until my mom goes, hey, I just want to retire. I don't know, I'm too much stress. And at the time, she was doing business with a U.S. customs broker. That was another company. And they were sort of like working together. So I go upstairs. I'm at her house. I go upstairs, and I'm a person of faith. So I opened my Bible and I just began to read, and I felt like God spoke to me, said, hey, you take it. So I just literally ran to the computer and I looked up, what is a customs broker online? And then I'm like, what does it take to become a customs broker? So I learned that you had to take an exam. It was only done in March and in October. So I studied and I passed the exam, and then I launched a business. The deal with my mom was when you become a customs broker, you open your company, you can acquire mine, and then, I become my mom's retirement plan. I'm like, I'm going to do that anyway. So this is a great story. So that's how that journey began.
And just so everyone understands, your mom's business was bringing produce from Mexico to the United States. And, being that we import superfoods all the time from all over the world, when you have two countries and you're importing a product or service or produce from that country, you usually have to go through brokers.
Yeah.
And you have to get through customs, and it has to go through. And so if you're a business in the U.S. and you want to bring in avocados from Mexico, you really need to find a partner in Mexico to do that. And your mom's company was that company.
Yeah, she was like the middleman between the customs broker and the farmers. So they would come to her, hey, how can I get my product across? She's like, okay, I'll take care of it.
So if I want avocados, I would reach out to your mom or her company, and she would help facilitate getting the avocados from the farmers, or strawberries or whatever the product is, from the farmers to the border, through the border, and to me.
That's correct.
And so when you studied for the custom brokerage license in the U.S., your plan was to be a U.S. company doing the same thing.
Yeah, a U.S. company that would facilitate. A lot of times, these farmers already have their clients in the U.S., and all they need is the legal paperwork. Companies like mine to take care of USDA, FDA, Customs and Border Protection. So we became experts in the field, and then we began to grow the business, and
you did okay.
Yeah, here we are today.
Yeah, here we are today, and along that journey, you're a man of faith. What led you from, while you have a thriving business, to still give back your time? And as I mentioned, we met through Awaken, but we met through an additional subset of Awaken called Pathfinders.
Yeah.
And this is what I love about Awaken and Pathfinders is they're not just about the Bible and faith.
Mm-hmm.
While that would be an okay mission in and of itself,
Yeah.
and a lot of places do,
Mm-hmm.
you guys believe that there is an opportunity to implement that belief system
Yeah.
in all walks of life and not shun anyone who is trying to do things in the marketplace or in these other areas of society.
Yeah.
It's not all just what we do inside of our building of faith.
Yeah.
If you can succinctly help me understand in the audience, what is Pathfinders?
Yeah, we believe that. So a lot of pastors, beautiful, great pastors in America, believe in the cause of, hey, let's bring people to have an encounter with Jesus Christ. And it's amazing. And they come to church and they hear a message, and you can get involved in church, you can serve, and live a great life. We believe that there's an assignment from heaven on your life, for example, as you Jeff. And that assignment is out and about in the marketplace. And as you grow your company and your companies, you get to be a light to all those around you and everyone that touches your product, so to speak. So we want to empower people. Hey, you have a dream. We want you to dream bigger. We want you to make a bigger impact, a greater impact. God wants to shine through you. So that's in a nutshell what Pathfinders is, but it doesn't stop in business. We believe in that God has a plan for every sphere of culture: politics, sports, arts, entertainment, business and finance, the medical industry, education. I mean, education is really due for a disruption. So that's really, we're like a breeding ground to equip people to go and launch them out into every sphere.
And I can tell you, it's resonating because when I first spoke at Awaken through a Pathfinder event, it must have been 2019.
Yeah, just about right.
2019.
Yeah.
There was one campus.
Yeah.
It was a smaller group. I loved it. I got to talk about vertical integration in business and things that mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I just spoke at an event in Salt Lake City at one of their newer campuses, and they have 6 campuses in San Diego, Salt Lake City, Boise, Idaho is now expanding.
Yeah.
More to come around the country, because I think that there's a bridge, and it used to be I can't be a good business leader
Right.
and a good human of faith,
Right.
whatever my faith may be,
Yeah.
because they contradict. There's a line that for some reason couldn't be crossed.
Mm-hmm.
And you've bridged that in such a way that it has been inviting and invigorating for your community.
Yeah.
And as a speaker, I'm so grateful to see that, because when I speak on stage, my goal is to help inspire more people to be the best version of themselves.
Wow.
And you're basically doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so in line with what God thinks about our assignment in the marketplace and business. There's a scripture that says that God delights in the prosperity of his servants. Think of that. He delights in you prospering. There's another scripture that says, remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to create wealth, that he may establish his covenant. So as you create wealth, it's like God is being glorified. But there's been such a misconception when it comes to wealth and prosperity in the Christian world that, if you want to be a holy man or a holy person, you got to be poor and humble. Well, that's not really humility. So we're really about that and excited. And you're right, it's resonating. I think people are really connecting with the message. We're empowering people to be the best version of themselves and to make an impact.
And one of my mentors helped me understand this concept, because he used to have these 3 business principles, and it was help a lot of people have a lot of fun and make a lot of money, in that order.
Yeah, wow.
And he changed it.
Mm.
He changed it to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun, in that order.
Mm.
And I asked him, I said, Dave, why the change?
Mm-hmm.
The first one seemed it felt good.
Yeah.
I say this one, it doesn't feel as good. It feels much more greedy and selfish. And he said, Jeff, if I don't make enough money, I can't help enough people.
Wow.
And when he said it at first, I rolled my eyes because I was a young, dumb kid.
Yeah.
But then I really started to think about it. I'm like, he's actually right. If I make $1,000 and I want to give for whatever cause matters most to me, whether it's religious, medical, a charity of any kind,
Sure.
I have $1,000 to give. If I make $1 billion, I have $1 billion to give.
So
You can't help enough people. And the analogy I now use from that is the one on the airplane. When the yellow masks come down, they always say, put your mask on before you help someone else. If you don't take care of yourself, your own needs, your own wants, and everything you need to do, you can't be able to help everyone else. And I think that that's what stops a lot of people, especially aspiring individuals in business, where they're torn between their desire to help others and their desire to help themselves. We have to help ourselves first so we can help others more impactfully.
So true.
And what I've been a witness to when I've been at Awaken events and Pathfinder events, whether it be speakers like yourself speaking before or after me, and I'm listening and observing, that's your message as well, which is be as successful as you possibly can be. And then impact as much as you can impact.
So true.
Did I say it right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, am I butchering it at all?
It's a part of the assignment to grow. The first words from God to humanity, Adam and Eve, were be fruitful and multiply. There's a law of first mentions, and what you mentioned, what God mentions first has so much value. Be fruitful and multiply in every area of your life. Growth. There's another scripture where Jesus comes into a parable. He gives to one 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. And the one that had 5 came back with 10. He said, well done, good and faithful servant. So a lot of people, you ask someone, hey, what does it mean to be faithful? What's the definition of faithfulness? Well, some would say to be loyal, to be trustworthy, to show up on time, to be consistent. But Jesus defined faithfulness with multiplication. Multiply what's in your hand, then you're faithful.
So, and this might be a little bit of an edgy question, but being that there's lots of faiths, not all people are Christian.
Right.
Not everyone believes in Jesus Christ. Pathfinders, is it open to every faith?
It's open to every faith, but we are a Christian-based organization. So yeah, I hope that helps answer the question.
Yeah. So you would be inviting
absolutely.
Of everyone.
Everyone can come and check it out.
And should.
Yeah.
Because even if it's not your belief system, that's okay, because we can learn from others and other beliefs.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it takes a while for us, our beliefs change. Sometimes we're exposed to ideas that we didn't realize were there, and we shouldn't only surround ourselves with people who always think exactly the way we do, because there's no growth in that.
Yeah.
Right?
So true.
So I think it's important. And this is a great segue, because you took a big step. You decided you're serving to, your call to serve was outside of just the faith community. You wanted to serve in the political arena. So for those who don't know, Marco ran for Chula Vista City Council District 1.
I ran for state assembly in 2021
Yep.
on a special election. A lot of people don't know what a state assembly is. When I felt the pull and the call, I also went to Google, said, what is state assembly? Then
It's amazing what Google can do for us.
I know, right? Then I learned it was a legislature of the state. There's the Senate and there's the state assembly, kind of like the Congress, if you will, the House in Washington, but for California. So I ran for that, and then I came in second out of 5, and then I ran for city council in Chula Vista in the last election.
Yep. As an entrepreneur, I know how meaningful it is to invest in the people and causes that are close to me. And on GoFundMe, it's easy, safe, and powerful to do just that. Whether you're supporting a family member, friend, local business, or charity. And whenever you make a donation, you're protected by the GoFundMe Giving Guarantee. Visit GoFundMe.com today to help make a positive difference in your community. What made you want to be in politics? Because it usually doesn't tie so closely to your background. Yeah. Normally it's people whose family was in politics, but it wasn't. You didn't come from a political family. So what drew you to politics?
Well, in the same way how I felt like God called me into the business world, I felt like he called me into politics. The victory wasn't guaranteed, but I knew I had to go. Especially with everything that we went through in 2020, I just didn't agree with a lot of the decisions that were being made from, people of places of authority. So I just decided to go for it. And then one thing led to another. But it was the same principles as in, when you build any organization, in business, you need to build a team. I was just talking to Eric, and he said, hey, he was telling me a bit of the story. He said, hey, come and help me build this. And then it got pretty big. Okay, let's build something bigger. So you started building a team. The same with politics. I was approached by a friend, said, hey, would you like to run? And I'm like, well, I feel called. Let's do it. And then, before we knew it, we had a fundraiser. We had a campaign manager. We had a consultant. We had a marketing director. Everyone believed. We're like, well, let's go. And we made a bit of a splash. We didn't win. However, the ultimate success would have been to win the election. But I'm humble to say that I was able to inspire a lot of people. And, you know, if Marco can do it, you know, he's just a normal dude, a business guy. He's a pastor at a church, helps in Pathfinders. And if he decided to run for office and he did it, gosh, I can do it too. So there was other people that ran, you know, even in the last election that I was able to inspire, which is a pretty cool thing.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think so often we have this binary definition of success. I either win the election or I don't.
Right.
I either beat my personal best at this or I don't. I either get the job or I don't. But what we fail to realize is the journey is so much better than the destination for so many things. And if we look at the journey and the man that you became during that process, the people you inspire during that process, the lessons you learned during that process, they're going to be used for the next 30, 40, 50 years of your life.
So true.
And maybe if you had won, you would have been focusing on that and unable to do the impact that you're now doing through Pathfinders because it might have pulled you away from it. But the lessons you learned through running and inspiring and making a difference and a change is going to help elevate Pathfinders and your next, you know, business venture to levels that you can't even fathom today.
100%. I was just learning how for the formula for a tree to grow tall. So the roots have to go deeper, but for the roots to grow deeper, the tree has to go through storms and winds. And as it goes through the storms and the winds, the roots go deeper so that the tree can grow taller. And if you don't throw yourself out there in places of discomfort, you don't experience adversity and the test. And it's almost like so, you know, counterintuitive, because we like pleasure, we like comfort. But once you throw yourself out there, then the creativity begins to grow and you begin to think of, how can I solve this problem? How can I solve that? You know, who do I call? I need to call my friend Jeff. You know, you just begin to think of all these things. And then you go through it and you come out on top. And then you look back, you're so right. You're like, oh my gosh, I learned so much in the last, 2-3 years. I'll tell you, there were painful years of running for office, can be lonely at times. I wouldn't trade it changes for anything because I grew so much. I learned so many cool people. I mean, met so many cool people, but it was a great experience.
Well, and I'm glad the definition of how a tree grows tall, it's true in all walks.
Yeah.
You know, when you're exercising and you want to get better cardiovascularly and you're running or you're doing push-ups, until it starts to hurt, you're actually not growing.
Yeah.
You're just either maintaining or not even growing at all. Discomfort is where all growth happens. And the reason it is because what makes it uncomfortable and the discomfort is the fact that our bodies, our minds, our souls, our hearts aren't used to it.
Right.
And that newness is uncomfortable because comfort means we've experienced it over and over again. Our beds are comfortable because we've slept in them 1,000,000 times. You buy a new bed, the first night of sleep's weird, even if it's a better bed.
Right.
Right? It takes a while to what we call break it in, make it feel comfortable. That's true in all walks of life. And when we're trying to build successful careers, successful jobs, be a successful parent, the first night that you're a parent is uncomfortable.
I remember
holding my daughter, and I remember my wife fell asleep in the hospital, and I was so afraid to sleep because I was afraid to put her down. Yeah. And then I was holding her, and I realized, am I holding her too tight? Because I could feel her little ribs. Yeah. Am I breaking her ribs? And I remember not sleeping a wink that night. Yeah. Fast forward 2 years, she could be jumping on the bed. I'm passed out asleep. I know she's indestructible. Yeah. Right. And it's just that whole idea that.
But it was uncomfortable.
But it was uncomfortable. Yeah. And that whole idea that discomfort and uncomfortableness, it is the barrier that we all must go through to get the results we want. And that's what I love about that, is because, me and you've talked, like I've considered running for certain political offices at times, and I've been asked by people like, hey, you should do it. Like, if you complain about things, why not be part of the effectuate the change?
Here, Jeff would be incredible running for office as a candidate. You'd be amazing.
That aside, though, I think the issue is that I like to voice things that I'm not happy about.
Yeah.
And so people always say, if you're not happy about it, do something about it.
Yeah.
Right. And the whole idea that, I can't win or I might not win. But the truth is, winning is one of the results.
Right.
But if you win and you don't change in the process, you probably
Wow.
failed.
That's so brilliant.
Right?
Yeah. So true.
And so part of that success journey and part of what I love about your story is that in addition to all of the things you've overcome as a man and meeting your wife and your kids, I see it in your entire family dynamic is you guys actually recognize that the journey is more important than the destination. And I see it in how you approach life. Right? And so I think that as people who are getting exposed to you for the first time, if you're looking for some inspiration, if you're looking for that example that, you know, and you said it, and I say the same thing on stage, I'm an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
I figure out what to do to get extraordinary results.
Wow.
And I think that's true of all of us. But you're a great example of someone who has overcome so much to build a successful life, a successful family, a man of faith, someone who's impacting change. And I think that you're a great inspiration for a lot of humans, and people need to know more about you. And that's why I was so excited to have you come on the show, because I think your story needs to be told even at bigger and grander. What you're doing at Pathfinders is great. More people need to be exposed to Pathfinders. They need to join that revolution because you guys are making more people successful. I keep meeting people who are members of the Pathfinder community. I'm speaking on their shows or their stages.
Yeah.
And when I listen to them talk, I get inspired.
Wow.
Right?
That's amazing.
And that's what we need to do. We need to inspire each other to be the best version of ourselves, regardless of our faith, regardless of what our belief system is today. Be open to new belief systems. Be open to understanding that disruption and uncomfortableness could yield something better.
100%.
Like your tree analogy.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so obviously I know that no one knows the future, but Pathfinders is exploding.
Yeah.
And you're now in the head of Pathfinders, because before you were the head of Pathfinders,
Colin and Melissa Higginbottom. Yeah.
Colin and Melissa Higginbottom, but they moved to Boise to help open that chapter because growth requires change.
Yeah. Right.
When you got tasked with or took over the position of now the head of Pathfinders, that day, that moment, I'm sure it was a rush of emotions from excitement to probably a little apprehension and fear.
Yeah.
Hey, fitness fans, ready to crush your fitness goals? Make your move to EOS Fitness, where becoming a member starts at just $9.99 a month. Gyms are open 24/7 and packed with the latest gym equipment to keep your workouts fresh. What are you waiting for? Give them a call, drop by, or hit up jefffenster.com/EOS to join. EOS Fitness, better gym, better price. Now, let's get after those goals. What was that feeling like when you went home that night? You're sitting there talking to your wife and you're like, all right, this is our new mission.
That's so, I mean, just thinking about it. So Colin and Melissa are still over all of Pathfinders. They just entrusted Natalie and I to oversee here in San Diego, which is 6 campuses. So we're still working together. We have a really exciting meeting on Thursday that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
We're going to be there together. But something that I think has been really impactful in my life is that even though I grew up in I would say a small-minded community in Tijuana, Mexico. I remember taking my wife one time. She grew up here in San Diego, beautiful family. She looked at me, she said, "You grew up here?" She couldn't believe it, put 2 and 2 together. But something my parents did from the beginning, they always pushed me and inspired me to dream and dream big. They said, whatever you do, Marco, whatever you decide to do, be the very best you can be. So it kind of became a habit for me in anything that I've ever approached. Like I remember playing baseball growing up, and I would dream, and gosh, I'd be like, I'm gonna be in the major leagues one day. And I just begin to think and visualize, see myself playing at the All-Star, the World Series, and that chapter ended. So then I went to play football. I'm like, I'm gonna play college football one day. And I just began to dream. I mean, but I guess the only negative side of that is that I always have such high expectations of myself and life and those around me and communities, my teams, that sometimes it's hard to shock me because I'm expecting such almost like the best result. I'm sure that happens to you too.
Sure.
With what you've built. But anyways, going back to your question, Colin and Melissa, they asked us to, hey, would you guys consider taking over San Diego and which is Pathfinders Conference, the breakfast. Have you spoken at the breakfast yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once.
Yeah, that's right. Breakfast.
Hopefully again.
Yeah. Oh, do you guys hear that? And then we have the apprenticeship, which is a 5-month intensive. So my wife and I go home and we just began to dream. We're like, what could this become? And then, we started seeing all the possibilities and how can we make this better. So it was really exciting. And then, I guess I don't always think of the problems. I just think of like, oh, it's going to be incredible. It's going to be amazing. And then just throw myself out there. Mm-hmm. And then, you begin to solve problems as you go. I'm like, oh, I need this, I need that. And then hopefully you surround yourself with, thankfully the right people have come alongside, and we have an incredible team that's solving all the amazing problems that we have. But it's a really exciting, and hopefully, get to come back and we talk more about the future.
Yeah. And I think what you just hit on is something that I hold dearly to my heart, which is it gives me the confidence when I don't know what to do. It's called just-in-time learning. I trust that I will learn what I need to just in time. I don't need to know how to do everything when I start a company or start an initiative.
Wow.
I need to know how to get started. Yeah. I need to know what I need to do to take that first step.
Wow.
And then through that first step and experience and continuously learning and being curious and focusing on Kaizen, I'll learn what I need to for tomorrow. I don't need to run a marathon the day I start training. I need to be able to tie my shoes. Day 2, can I put on gym clothes? Day 3, can I go outside? Mm-hmm. Eventually we'll get to the marathon.
Yeah.
But so often, I can never run a marathon.
Right.
Well, no, not today.
Right.
No, I could never run for political office and win. Maybe not today. Mm-hmm. But you could start to inquire what it takes.
Wow.
I could never join something like Pathfinders and I'm too shy. I don't have that today.
Yeah.
But you can take step 1 and reach out to Marco and say, hey, I'm interested. Can I come for an exploratory breakfast? Can I come see what we're about?
Yeah.
Those steps, those first steps, they're actually the hardest and biggest steps.
Wow.
And you don't need any skills to do them. You
That's
just
so
need
brilliant.
to take that first step.
Wow. That's so right on. I remember being at an event and seeing like a younger guy. At the time I was in college, and I saw like a peer speaking on stage, and I'm like, oh, how cool would it be to do that one day? And I began to think, gosh, how could I ever come up with, a minute of content, but you throw yourself out there, you begin to grow and develop. I remember reading this book on, because I have kids that are athletes. I think you did too. I think it's called Changing the Game. And it talked about 2 different views. One was the fixed mindset, and then the growth mindset. And how, the fixed mindset said that, either you have it or you don't. But the growth mindset is that, no, you can develop. Wherever you find yourself, you can grow and develop and learn. And I've used that with my kids, and it really helps because we're all on a journey, really. So I love that.
And everybody who's amazing at anything was terrible at it at one point. We all had our day 1. But the difference is if you start with day 1 and you stay consistent, day 1 turns into you can learn how to do anything. I mean, really, like if you boil it all the way back, I'm a shy, introverted guy. Most people think I'm comfortable on stage.
I would have never guessed that. Right. Yeah.
Because I've worked on it.
Right. And you're amazing at it.
It's through hard work and mentors and surrounding myself with other inspiring people and learning from them and Google, right? And practice and being bad at it for a while and having the humility to understand like, hey, the first time I ever spoke on a stage, I told the audience, first thing I said, this is my first time speaking on a stage.
Wow.
So I lowered the barometer of expectations immediately, or I hope to.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to do my best. Be patient with me.
Yeah.
I've never done this before.
And you blew our minds.
Well, that wasn't my first time. But I mean, the first time I did.
Yeah.
And this was, 2011. And I remember being so scared.
Wow.
And having no idea what I was going to talk about. But I set a barometer for myself which said, my goal today is not to be the best speaker in the world, the next Tony Robbins. My goal today was to conquer my fear and get on the stage and speak.
Wow.
Fast forward 12 years, I'm comfortable now. Doesn't mean I'm as good as I'm going to be tomorrow because I hope I'm continuously getting better.
Right.
But I think, what I've been inspired about you, and I'm so grateful that I got to meet you and become, I'm grateful to be able to call you a friend.
Yeah.
But you inspire me because I'm watching you be an example every day through everything you touch and do. And I mean this honestly, you have so many reasons that you can say, I can't.
Right.
But you never do. And I pride myself on also trying to overcome the can'ts. And if we can inspire and help everyone overcome all the can'ts,
so good.
There's nothing we can't accomplish.
Right. 100%.
Right?
I love that. I tell my kids, hey, what you say happens. It's one of our core values. What you say happens. So I never like hearing I can't or I won't or coming up with excuses. No, you can find a way to solve the problem. And that's really been, I guess, the theme of my life, really. I remember having to cross the border every day to go to school. And there would be times where I had to be at, there was a coach that lived in TJ that would cross the border. He would take us to the border. And I had to be at his house I think at 5:45 in the morning. And gosh, you have practice the previous day. You're tired, sometimes I'd miss it. So I'd just drive to the line and I would run to the front of the line and hoping that I would see somebody. I'm 16 years old that, was like a friend or was going in the same direction. I would just stand in line and just, seeing hundreds of cars drive by until I'd see a friend. I'm like, hey, can I get a ride with you guys? But it's having that mindset of, hey, it doesn't matter what obstacles I face, I can overcome.
Mm-hmm.
I can find a solution. And I feel like a lot of times we find ourselves, we freeze under circumstances, and I get it. Like, I have empathy. Sometimes problems are real. And especially if you deal with, different mental challenges. But if, I love what you just said, like, we can do it, So.
Well, Marco, I have one request on camera that after your meeting Thursday goes as well as I know it's going to be, we're going to have you back in studio so we can talk about it and help spread the message even bigger, even better, and have you as a repeat performer on the show so we can continue this awesome communication for the audience, because I think you have so much inspiration and so much value to add that can I get a verbal commitment to have you back?
Absolutely. It'd be my honor, man. I love you and your community, your family. You guys are incredible. Have you done your vertical integration talk on your podcast or the core values one?
Not on the podcast. I've done it just on stages.
Everyone needs to hear that. It is unbelievable. It wrecked us. Like I'm telling you. I get to be friends with a lot of business people at our church, and everyone still talks about your talk, the vertical integration. So it would be my honor to be back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on, Marco.
Thank you, Jeff.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
Hey everyone. First, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you guys haven't heard about my new book, Relationship Bank Account, click the link in the show notes or search the title on Amazon. This book is packed with all my secrets to success in both relationships and life. Make sure to pick up a copy, and if the book helps you on your journey, let us know by leaving a review. I appreciate all of you and can't wait to see you on the next one.